All right, you modern humans, this video covers the historical orator Kier Hardie, a Labour Party fighter, a union organizer, and a socialist ideologue. This is Speaking Through the Ages, where we bring back the dead in an attempt to bring out the values, beliefs, and internal struggles of those humans that came before. We give context to and deliver historical speeches that motivated people to kill, riot, make salt, and sign papers. I'm Joseph Delisle, your novice history fan. To join us, subscribe and click the bell for notifications. Now, sit back and grab a beer to hear about Kier. James Kier Hardie became the voice of the Labour and Socialist movement in the UK. He was one of the first working class elected to Parliament without support from the Conservative or Liberal Party. And his story is one of those great underdog epics. Mary Kier gave birth to her illegitimate son, James Kier Hardie, on August 15, 1856. He was born about 15 miles east of Glasgow, Scotland. In this time frame, being a bastard was one of the worst cards you could draw upon your entry into life. James's biological father was a miner who he had little to no contact with. Mary was a domestic servant who soon fell in love with Kier Hardie's stepfather, David Hardie. His stepfather was a ship carpenter, but instead of taking his trade back out to sea where there was more money and more deaths, he tried his luck in the shipyards. They quickly moved to a shipping burg just outside Glasgow called Govan. Little did they know, this decision set the family up to struggle financially for Kier Hardie's entire childhood. He started working at the ripe old age of 7 and did a number of low-paying, entry-level jobs, including a message boy for Anchor Line Steamship Company, an apprentice in a brass fitting shop, work as a lithographer, a form of printing, and a shipyard heating rivets guy, and a bakery delivery boy. After his long work days, his parents taught him to read and write during the night. Dark financial times were closing in on the Hardie family. During a union lockout, his stepfather was sent home for 6 months without pay. This meant Kier Hardie's income was the sole source for the family. And to top it all off, Mama Hardie was now pregnant, keeping her from working. And this was not the era of food assistance. So they sold most of their belongings for food. Even with all their hard work and effort, one of their siblings still fell ill and they died. Then on top of it all, young Kier Hardie lost 2 of his jobs for showing up late. In desperation, his stepfather returned to the sea, and the family was forced to move in with Grandma. By age 10, Kier Hardie started as a coal trapper, which was usually a small child employed to open and close the doors for different sections of the coal mines to maintain air supply. Around this age, he started attending night school as well. Eventually, he transitioned into a pony driver for the mines, and later worked his way into the pits as a hewer, which is the actual miners. By 20, he was a veteran, skilled miner. However, he developed this bad habit of preaching and constantly found himself in front of a crowd of his fellow miners. Other miners started to look toward him as their spokesperson and leader. This earned him the reputation as someone who pokes the bear. He was eventually fired and blacklisted from the local mining companies. This was the coal company's biggest mistake. Now at 23, Kier Hardie was free to become a full-time union organizer. In 1879, the mine owners banded together to reduce wages. This forced the miners together, and a huge meeting was held. Kier Hardie was appointed corresponding secretary of the miners. Later, he was selected as a delegate for the National Conference of Miners in Glasgow, where he became the national secretary. Throughout the years, he dedicated his life to organizing strikes, providing resources for those striking. He often, with the help of his wife, ran a soup kitchen out of his home, or he would cut deals at the local food market to provide food at lower costs for the miners. Kier Hardie and his wife relocated multiple times throughout his life to start new movements, organize workers, and strike. For funds, Hardie dived into journalism, starting the Comnock News, a pro-labor liberal paper. This positioned him well to sow the beginnings of the first powerful Scottish labour union, the Ayrshire Miners' Union, in 1886. He was named organizing secretary and earned a salary of £75 per year. Shortly after, in 1887, Hardie launched a new journal called The Miner. As part of the Fabian Socialist Society, Kier Hardie became increasingly fed up with the Liberal Party's economic policies. He feared they were using the working class for support without doing anything for the working class. So he ran for office in 1888 as an independent Labour candidate and lost. The lack of support from the Liberal Party ignited the need for a separate Scottish Labour Party. Hardie was appointed secretary. Then in 1892, the Liberals decided not to field a candidate in the West Southam district. Instead, they invited Kier Hardie to run, and he beat the Conservative, 5,268 votes to 4,036. On the first day of office, he poked the bear and wore a plain tweed suit and a deerstalker hat that matched. This was opposed to the dressy frock coat and top hat all other members of Parliament wore. By 1893, it was clear that the Scottish Labour Party was not gaining momentum. Kier Hardie formed the Independent Labour Party to fill the void and sat as its first chairman. In 1895, the Scottish Labour Party dissolved into the Independent Labour Party. From 1892 to 1895, he served as a member of Parliament, but he overstepped with a controversial speech. An explosion killed 251 miners, and Kier Hardie wanted to amend a public congratulation statement for the birth of King Emperor Edward VIII to offer condolence to the miners. It was refused, and this pissed Kier Hardie off. He then gave a speech which rang like this. From his childhood onward, this boy will be surrounded by sycophants and flatterers by the score. And he will be taught to believe in himself as a superior creation. A line will be drawn between him and the people whom he is to be called upon someday to reign over. In due course, following the precedent which has already been set, he will be sent on a tour around the world. Probably rumors of a morganatic alliance will follow. And at the end of it all will be that the country will be called upon to pay the bill. Well, he would lose his seat in 1895, but remained the Independent Labour Party's chairman for the next 5 years. He would work with enthusiasm and focus to build momentum on the labor movement. He gave powerful speeches, organized public meetings and events, and would even be arrested at a women's suffrage gathering. In February 1900, Kier Hardie organized various labor and socialist groups, including the Independent Labour Party, to form the Labor Representation Committee. And with this act, the Labour Party was born. That same year, Kier Hardie was re-elected to Parliament as the Labour Party leader. Fun fact, this was also the first year Winston Churchill was elected to the House of Commons. On April 23rd, 1901, the Labour Party started to unveil socialism, with Kier Hardie delivering a socialist speech in the House of Commons, which we'll deliver to you in our next video. Thanks for exploring the ages with us. In this video, we covered Kier Hardie's short biography. Throughout speaking through the ages, we'll encounter different bios, cultures, and histories. We'll cover more detail and reveal little by little as each speech requires. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And remember, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell for notifications. Or leave comments to correct any errors, exaggerations, or perfunctory explanations this novice history fan gets wrong. See you next time, where the dead teach.